Chapter 17. In the quiet house, with the dog snoring at her feet, Abigail scanned the hacked FBI files. It pleased her that Special Agent Elise Garrison had pursued the lead she'd leaked to her, built on it. The $5.6 million the FBI's operation had confiscated equaled a nice, solid chunk, enough to sting, in Abigail's opinion, as would the 6 arrests. It was hardly enough to put the Volkoffs out of business, but it would annoy them and drive them to dig deeper into their organization, trying to find the source of the leaks. Satisfied, she closed the files, told herself she should go to bed. It was nearly midnight, and she'd contracted 2 new jobs that week. She needed to be fresh to begin work in the morning. But she wasn't tired. What she was, Abigail admitted, was restless, and what she was doing, under the cover of work and research, was waiting for her phone to ring. How many times, she wondered, had she read a book or watched a movie where she'd been baffled by a woman waiting for a man to call? It seemed to her women who did so not only lacked a sense of self-esteem, but were simply foolish. Now she could only be baffled at herself. She didn't like the sensation she experienced, this combination of nerves and anxiety. Faint, yes, but there. She didn't even want this relationship, she reminded herself, and she certainly didn't want this uncomfortable and unattractive position she found herself in now. She didn't require phone calls or dinner companionship or conversations, or any of it. All of those things interfered with her routine, upset her schedule, and, more important, could only lead to complications she couldn't risk. Still, she had to admit it was nice to have those things, and to forget, even for minutes at a time, and simply be Abigail. The Abigail he was attracted to, enjoyed being with. But wasn't that falling into the same trap she'd sprung on herself years before, convincing herself she could be what she wasn't, have what she couldn't? It was good, better, no, best he hadn't called. She could begin immediately readjusting herself, her life back to what it had been before he'd changed it. She'd make herself some herbal tea. She'd take it upstairs and read herself to sleep. That was sensible. That was who she was. When she rose, the dog came awake instantly. He followed her into the kitchen, and when he saw her fill the kettle with water, sat to wait. A good dog, she thought as she set the kettle on the stove, a comfortable, well-secured house and satisfying work. Those were the only things she required to be content, and contentment was all she required. And yet, when her alarm signaled, she didn't feel her usual click of tension and readiness. Instead, she felt a quick surge of hope. Annoyed by it, she turned to her monitor to watch Brooks drive toward the house. He presumed too much, she decided, coming to her door after midnight. She wished now she'd turned off the lights, gone to bed. If she had, at least he wouldn't have any reason to think she'd waited for him. She'd tell him she was on her way to bed and too tired for company. Simple, and again, sensible, she thought, as she went to the door. She opened it as he got out of the car, and in the glare of her security lights, saw in his face, in his movements, layers of exhaustion, anger, sadness. Sorry. He stood for a moment at the base of the porch steps, bathed in that bright light. I should have called earlier. I should have gone on home. You didn't? No. Things got complicated. He shoved a hand through his hair. And I was here before I thought about how late it is. You're still up? Yes. Her resolve thinned and tore as she studied his face. I was making tea. Do you want tea? Sounds good. He came up the stairs. I'm sorry I didn't let you know I'd be this long. You have work. I've been working too." Saying nothing, he put his arms around her, pressed his face to her hair. Not for pleasure, she realized. It took her a moment to decipher the tenor of the embrace. He sought comfort. He'd come to her for comfort, and no one ever had. She started to pat his back, there, but stopped. And closing her eyes, she tried to imagine what she'd want. She rubbed his back instead, small, light circles, until she heard him sigh. "The kettle's boiling," she told him when she heard it whistle. "Yeah." But he held on for another moment before he stepped back. "You should come in. I need to lock the door." "I'll get it." "No, I wouldn't feel fully safe if she didn't lock up herself." "Okay, I'll get the kettle." When she'd finished, she found him pouring hot water into the squat teapot where she'd already measured out leaves. "Lemon balm, right? My mother does the same thing some nights. It's relaxing." "I could use some relaxing." She got out a second cup, saucer. "Is your friend all right?" "Not really." "Oh." Instantly shamed of her earlier annoyance, she turned. "He was hurt?" "Not physically, other than a fist to the face, but he's had that before. He's likely to again." In silence, she arranged the cups, the pot, the sugar bowl, and spoons on the table. "You should sit down. You look very tired. We'll have to share the tea strainer when it's steeped. I only have one." "That's fine." Unsure, she remained standing when he sat down. "Do you want food?" "I have the lasagna. It can be heated." "No, but thanks." "You're so sad," she blurted out. "I guess that's some of it. Got a lot of pissed off in there, too. I've got to shake both off before I deal with tomorrow." "Do you want to tell me, or should I change the subject?" He smiled a little. "You should sit down, Abigail, and have your tea." "I don't know if I'm good at this," she said as she sat. "Drinking tea?" "Comforting, or diffusing. Since you're angry and sad, it should be both." He laid a hand over hers briefly, then poured out the tea. "Let's find out. Russ's family's owned the hotel for 3 generations now. It's not just a business, not just a livelihood to them. It's an essential part of their family history and their place in the community." "Yeah, there's pride and love there. Justin Blake. Have you heard of the Blakes?" "Yes, they're a very wealthy and influential local family." "Justin's a spoiled, trouble-making fuckwit with a string of DUIs, a bad attitude. He'd have a sheet as long as my leg if his father didn't use that money or influence or political pressure, whatever works, to get him off. The kid has no respect for the law or any other damn thing." "It would be difficult to develop one if he's allowed to behave badly with impunity." "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I'm supposed to listen." "There's no supposed. Anyway, his latest. He and a couple of the assholes he hangs with booked the best suite at the hotel and trashed it. Destroyed it." "Why?" "For kicks, out of boredom, because they could. Pick one." Brooks shrugged, then scrubbed his hands over his face. "Russ went up this evening to deal with them when guests complained about the noise. Upshot is Justin punched him, took some swings at security, got himself arrested. And this time he won't slide through. It's looking like better than 100,000 in damages. Maybe more." "That's a great deal." "Yeah, it is. And Russ and his parents won't cave when Lincoln Blake pushes at them. I had a go-round with him and the kid tonight." "You won't cave either." "No, I won't. Justin and his pals are spending the night in jail. They'll make bail tomorrow. Blake will see to it. But Justin's got 2 choices. He takes a plea and does time, or he stands trial and does time, but he goes down this time. And either way, the Blakes pay every cent of the damages. Jesus, I'm pissed off. He shoved up, stalked to the window. I should have gone home. You wouldn't be pissed off at home? No, I'd be pissed off anywhere. That fat, self-satisfied, cigar-smoking fuckhead figures he can threaten me with my job and I'll scare off? The father? Yeah, the father. Can he have you fired? If he can, they can shove the job. I don't want it if I can't fucking do it. Not if some overprivileged asshole can do whatever the hell he wants and I'm supposed to look the other way. Money is power, Abigail said quietly, but it's not the only power. I guess we'll see. I went over to talk to Russ's parents, and Russ and Celine, his wife, after I dealt with the lawyer. She cried. Mrs. Conroy, this sweet, funny woman who always had peanut butter cookies in the jar, just broke down and cried. I should have found a way to put that little bastard away before it went this far. It's useless to blame yourself for what this person did, or what his father has been able to do, especially when the pattern was set long before you took the position as chief of police. The rational thing to do is arrest him, which you have, and to compile evidence for the prosecutor to assist in getting a guilty verdict at trial. That wasn't sympathetic, she realized. Brooke sat back down, picked up his tea. Worked pretty well, though. I know the logic of it, Abigail. But your friend and his family have been hurt. It's emotional as well as financial and physical and criminal. People should pay for their actions. There should be consequences. There should be justice. Her hand balled into a fist on the table for a moment before she ordered herself to relax it. It's hard not to feel sad and angry and even hopeless when bad things happen, because fear and influence and money often outweigh justice. He leaned forward, laid a hand over hers. Who hurt you? She shook her head, said nothing. Not yet, then. What will you do tomorrow? I've got a 7:30 meeting with the prosecutor to go over everything again. We'll have an arraignment, bail hearing. I expect they'll cut Justin and the others loose until trial. I don't figure he'll go for a plea straight off. Maybe, once it gets closer, maybe if the lawyers don't screw it up. The Conroys are just mad enough to go for a civil suit on top of it. I won't be discouraging that. It's time the pressure came from the other side. Then you know what you have to do and how to do it. Are they violent? The kid likes to bust things up. I meant, could or would they try to hurt you or your friend's family, using violence as intimidation? Can't say for sure, but I wouldn't go there. Money's Blake's weapon of choice. Abigail considered. I don't believe they can have you fired. Don't you? Objectively, your family is a fixture in the community, liked and respected. You're also liked and respected in your own right. I assume as a multi-generational business family with a key property in the community, your friend and his family are also valued. Their property was damaged through reckless and selfish behavior, so sympathy and outrage will be on their side. Those things are also weapons. Extrapolating from what you've said tonight, I'd posit that the Blakes are somewhat feared but not well liked. There are likely many people in the community who'd be pleased if the son is punished for his actions. Extrapolating. Now, how can you use words like that and still manage to make me feel a whole hell of a lot better? Did I? This time, he laid a hand over hers and left it there. You were right about the sad. I was, and pissed off and frustrated, and will have to toss in a dash of feeling sorry for myself. Now I'm down to sorry and mad with a whole fat scoop of looking forward to kicking some ass. Legally speaking. That's good? It's real good. He gave her hand a squeeze. I should go. I wish you'd stay. He turned her hand over so their fingers linked. Thank God. We should go to bed. 2 minds, 1 thought. It's late, she said as she rose to gather the tea things. You're tired, and, I think, still a little sad. Sex releases endorphins, so for the short term you'd feel... She trailed off when she turned and found him grinning at her. I'm half in love with you, he told her, and heading fast toward 3/4. Something inside her burst like sunlight before it flooded away on a rise of panic. Don't do that. I don't think it's something you do or don't. It's something that happens or doesn't. It's a mixture of sexual and physical attraction, along with novelty and the tension between mutual interests and conflicts of interest. People often mistake hormonal reaction and certain compatibilities for what they think of as love. He continued to smile as he got to his feet, but something about the glint in his eyes had her taking a cautious step back as he walked to her. He put his hands on her shoulders, lowered his head to brush his lips over hers. He said, "Hush," and kissed her again. You don't want to tell me what I feel or don't, or I might click back up to pissed off. We don't want that, do we? No, but... Hush, he repeated, with his lips whispering against hers. Pretty Abigail, so full of suspicion and intellect and nerves. I'm not nervous. Nerves, he repeated, skimming his thumbs along the sides of her breasts, while his mouth continued to toy with hers. Rubbing, brushing, grazing. When you're not quite sure what's next, when you haven't worked out all the steps or there's a little detour, I like the nerves. Why? And I like the curious why. He tugged her shirt up and off, watching the surprise, and just a few nerves flicker in her eyes. I like knowing you haven't figured it, this, all out. His hands glided up her sides, over her breasts, down. Action and reaction, right? I like your reactions. There were nerves, she admitted. They seemed to slither along her skin, under it, coil in her belly, squeeze around her heart to increase the beat. Everything inside her body felt soft, then sharp, loose, then tangled. How could she keep up? We should go upstairs. She felt his lips curve against her throat and his fingers trail up her back. Why? He murmured and flicked open the catch of her bra. I like your kitchen. He shifted his feet, toeing off his shoes. It's warm and efficient. I love the way you feel under my hands. Abigail. She fell into the kiss, head first, a breathless tumble that left her dizzy and weak. Seduction. Though she'd never allowed herself to be seduced, it was unnecessary. Her mind recognized the sensation, and her body surrendered to it. Craving the feel of his skin, his muscles, his bones, she shot her hands under his shirt, found the warm, the solid, the smooth. Her breath caught on a gasp when he hitched her up so she sat on her own kitchen counter. Before the shock of that had fully registered, his mouth closed over her breast. So hot, so wet, so strong, she let out a quick cry of stunned pleasure. Later, she would think the orgasm that shot through her was as much a result of the shock as the sensation. but now it caught her unprepared, left her shuddering and defenseless. "Brooks." She wanted to tell him to wait until she steadied herself, but his mouth was on hers again, taking her under so fast, so deep, she could only shudder and yield. She'd never been taken before, he realized. Not like this, where her surrender was complete, not when she couldn't separate some small part of herself to reach for control. And God, he wanted to take her, to destroy that fascinating and innate control. He yanked down her zipper and, half lifting her, peeled the jeans away. Giving her no time to recover, he closed his mouth over hers again, swallowing her instinctive protest. He stroked her, teasing and gentle. She was already hot, already wet, already balanced on the edge. He wanted her to ride that, hold that sensation until it overwhelmed and overcame. He wanted to watch her as she did. The air, so thick and sweet, made her feel drunk with every breath. The pleasure he brought her was so complete, so absolute, she seemed trapped in it, mired and steeped. He caught her nipple between his teeth, bringing her to an exquisite point just bordering on pain, while he stroked that heat higher. When she thought she couldn't bear it, couldn't contain it, everything went bright and free. She heard herself moan, the long, long, throaty sound of it as her head dropped heavily on his shoulder. She wanted to twine around him, curl inside him, but he angled her back, wrapped her trembling legs around his waist, and drove into her. Fresh shock, fresh pleasure, hard and fast and furious, a rising flood churning into the wild sweep of a tidal wave. He dragged her through it, drowned her in it, until that violent wave tossed her to the surface. She could only float there, wrecked, until he joined her. Now, gradually, she felt his heart hammering against hers, and the rags of his breath tearing at her ear. She felt the smooth surface of the counter under her, the dazzle of the kitchen lights against her closed lids. She needed a moment or two, just a moment or two, to find her balance again. Then she could... He shocked her again when he scooped her off the counter, into his arms. "You don't have to." "Hush," he said yet again, and carried her upstairs to bed. She came down first in the morning and could only stop and stare. She'd left the lights on, a careless waste of energy, but she couldn't seem to get too worked up about it. Clothes scattered the floor, hers and his. She studied the counter with a kind of baffled wonder. She'd never understood the appeal for sex in odd or unusual places. What was the point when a bed, even a couch, would be more comfortable and conducive? Though she did enjoy sex in the shower on occasion. Obviously, she'd been too narrow in her viewpoint, though she wondered how long it might take before she could perform basic kitchen duties with equanimity. For now, she started the coffee, then gathered up all the clothes, folded them neatly. By the time Brooks came down, naked, she'd set the kitchen to rights and started breakfast. "Seem to have left my clothes down here." Obviously amused, he picked up the jeans she'd folded, put them on. "You didn't have to get up this early, make breakfast." "I like getting up early, and don't mind making breakfast. You have a difficult day ahead. You'll feel better if you have a meal. It's just an omelet and some toast." When she turned, he'd pulled on his shirt and was looking at her, just looking at her with those clever, changeable eyes. "I wish you wouldn't look at me like that." "Like what?" She turned away to pour the coffee. "I don't know." He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist loosely, pressed a kiss to the side of her neck.
"Rounding third and headed for home,"
he murmured. "That's a baseball term. We're not playing baseball. I don't know what that means." He turned her around, kissed her mouth lightly.
"Yes, you do. It's nothing to get panicked about."
He rubbed at the tension in her shoulders.
"We'll take it easy. What kind of omelets?"
3 cheese with some spinach and peppers."
"Sounds great. I'll get the toast."
He moved so easily around her kitchen as if he belonged there. Panic tickled up her throat again. How did people put it? I'm not built for this."
"For what?"
"For any of this."
"I am."
He popped bread in the toaster, leaned on the counter.
"I wasn't sure about that, until you. But I'm built for all of this. From my point of view, so are you. So, we'll see."
"I'm not who you think I am." He studied her, nodding slowly.
"Maybe not on all the details, maybe not. But I'm looking at you, Abigail. I'm listening to you. And where it counts, you're who I think you are."
"That's not—" She nearly told him that wasn't her real name. How could she become this involved, this reckless? "That's not something you can know."
"I know that's not what you were going to say. I'm good at reading people. It comes with the territory. I know you're scared of something, or someone. You've taken a hard hit or two along the way and done what you can to shield up. Can't blame you for it."
Light poured in the window at his back, shot a nimbus around his hair. Dark hair, still tumbled from the night, from her hands. "I don't know what to say to you."
"You've got a lot of secrets behind your eyes, and a hell of a lot of weight on your shoulders. I'm going to keep believing that one day you're going to share those secrets and that weight with me, and we'll figure out the rest once you do."
She only shook her head, turned away to put the omelets on plates. "We shouldn't be talking about this, especially now. You'll be late for your meeting, and I have 2 new contracts to work on."
"Congratulations. Why don't I pick something up for dinner tonight?"
"I have the lasagna."
"Even better."
She put the plates down when the toast popped, then sat with a jerk of temper. "I didn't invite you."
"We're past that."
"I don't know how to be past that." He brought the toast over, set a slice on her plate as he took his seat.
"This looks great."
"You change the subject, or you agree rather than debate, because you're so certain you'll get your way in the end."
"You're good at reading people, too."
He took a bite of omelet.
"Tastes great. You could make a living."
"You're frustrating."
"I know it, but I make up for it by being so good-looking."
She didn't want to smile, but couldn't help it. "You're not that good-looking." He laughed and ate his breakfast. When he'd gone, she considered her options. She couldn't tell him, of course, but, hypothetically, what were the probable results if she did? She was wanted for questioning in the murders of 2 U.S. Marshals. As a law enforcement official, he'd be obligated to turn her in. It was highly doubtful she'd live to give testimony. The Volkoffs would find a way to get to her and eliminate her, most likely through one of their law enforcement plants. But, hypothetically again, if Brooks believed her, and believed her life would be forfeit should he do his duty, he would be less inclined to fulfill that duty. She tried to imagine being able to talk to him about John and Terry, about Julie and everything that had happened since those horrible nights. She simply couldn't imagine it, couldn't theorize on how it might feel to be able to talk to him, to anyone, to share the burden. He was kind, she thought, and dedicated to justice, to doing the right thing for the right reasons. In many ways, in basic, vital ways. He reminded her of John. If she told him, if he believed her, he might be, like John, driven to protect her, to help her. And wouldn't that put his life at risk? Yet another reason to keep her own counsel, to go on as she'd gone on for a dozen years. But everything had already changed, she reminded herself. Everything wasn't as it had been. He'd done that. She'd allowed it. So if she told him, because the balance had already shifted, she would have to be prepared to go, to run again, change her name again, whether he believed her or not. Therefore, logically, rationally, she couldn't tell him. Their relationship would gradually lessen in intensity until the balance shifted back again, until her life was back to what it had been. Her conclusions should have made her feel more confident, more calm and certain. Instead, they left her unhappy and unsettled. Chapter 18. The morning business went pretty much the way Brooks had figured, with a few extra points for the good guys. He'd expected Justin and his idiot pals to make bail, and had calculated the judge would set it high enough to sting a little. He set it high enough to sting a lot. Harry objected, of course. He had to do his job, but the judge held firm. The Conroys might not have been as deep in the pockets as the Blakes, but they were as well respected, and a hell of a lot more well-liked. Justin had kicked the wrong cat this time, in Brooks's opinion. From his position in the courtroom, he watched Blake seethe, Justin sneer, and the two others being arraigned keep their heads and eyes down while their parents sat stone-faced. He had to fight back a mile-wide grin when the judge agreed to the prosecutor's demand that all three under charges turn in their passports.
"This is insulting."
Blake surged to his feet at the judge's ruling, and this time Brooks did a happy dance in his head.
"I won't tolerate the insinuation my son would run away from these absurd charges. We want our day in court."
"You're going to get that." Judge Reingold, who played golf with Blake every Sunday, slapped his gavel down.
"And you're going to show respect in this courtroom, Lincoln. You sit down and keep your peace in here, or I'll have you removed." "Don't think you can sit up there and threaten me. I helped put you in those robes."
Behind his wire-framed glasses, Reingold's eyes glittered.
"And as long as I'm wearing them, you'll show them respect. Sit down, be quiet, or sure as God made little green apples, I'll hold you in contempt of court."
Blake shoved Harry aside when the lawyer tried to intervene.
"I'll show you contempt." "You just did."
Reingold banged his gavel again.
"That's $500. Bailiff, remove Mr. Blake from the courtroom before he makes it 1,000.
Red-faced, teeth set, Blake turned on his heel and stalked out under his own power. He took a moment to pause, scowled Brooks with a blistering stare. Brooks sat through the rest of the legal wrangling, the instructions, the warnings, the scheduling. He waited until Justin and his friends were led back to their holding cells until their bail could be posted. More than satisfied, Brooks had to control a little bounce in his step when he walked over to speak with Russ and his family. There was no doubt in his mind that having the entire Conroy family present, Russ's split lip, Mrs. Conroy fighting tears, had influenced Reingold's ruling. That pompous, bully Blake made it worse for himself and those vicious boys. Celine, dark eyes sparkling in contrast to her usual easy-as-Sunday morning temperament, kept her arm protectively around her mother-in-law's shoulders. "I loved it. I only wished he'd opened his mouth again so it cost him more."
"I wasn't sure Stan would stand up against Lincoln."
Mick Conroy nodded toward the bench.
I feel some better about it. I'm going to take your mom home," he said to Russ. "You want me to come?"
Hilly, her eyes still shadowed, the bright hair she'd passed to her son pulled back in a haphazard ponytail, shook her head. She kissed Russ's cheek. "We'll be all right. Brooks." She kissed Brooks's cheek in turn. "We're grateful."
"There's no need for that."
"She's still sad," Celine murmured when her in-laws walked out. "She can't find her mad through it. I want her to find that mad. She'll feel better when she does."
"You're mad enough for all of us."
Celine smiled a little. "God knows. I've got to get to school. The kids have probably traumatized the morning substitute by now." She gave Brooks a hard hug, turned to Russ, held on to him for a long minute. "Don't fret too much, cutie," she told him.
"Let me buy you a cup of coffee," Brooks said to Russ when they were alone. "I should get to the hotel. Take a few minutes, decompress."
"I could use it." "Okay, I'll meet you there." The minute Brooks walked into the diner, Kim grabbed a coffee pot and beelined toward him. She pointed at a booth, turned the mug on the tabletop over, poured. "Well," she said.
"Just coffee, thanks."
She poked him on the shoulder. "How am I supposed to maintain my status as news queen if you don't give me the dish? Do you want me to get demoted?"
"No, indeed, we can't have that." They made bail.
Her mouth turned down ferociously. "I should have known Stan Reingold would play weasel for Lincoln Blake."
"Now, I wouldn't say that, Kim. I expected them to make bail. I didn't expect the judge to set it as high as he did, and I can guarantee you Blake didn't either."
"That's something, then."
"And he's confiscating their passports until after the trial."
"Well, now." Lips pursed, she gave a satisfied nod. "I take it all back. That had to burn Blake's fat ass."
"Oh, I'd say he felt the heat. He mouthed off and the judge fined him $500 for contempt."
This time she slapped Brooks's shoulder. "You're shitting me."
"Swear to God."
"I take it all back double. Next time Stan Reingold comes in, I'm giving him pie on the house. You hear that, Lindy?" she called to the man at the grill. "Stan Reingold fined Lincoln Blake $500 for contempt."
Spatula fisted at his hip, Lindy turned. "About time contempt cost him, 'cause the sumbitch has plenty of it. That coffee's on me, Brooks."
Lindy lifted his chin toward the door.
"And his, too."
Kim spotted Russ when he came in, turned the second mug over. "You sit right on down here, sweetie." She rose to her toes to kiss his cheek. "And no charge for the coffee or anything else you want. You be sure to tell your folks that anybody worth spit in this town is sorry as hell about what happened, and behind them 100%.
"I will. Thanks, Kim. It means a lot."
"You look tired out. How about a big wedge of that French apple pie you like to perk you up?"
"Couldn't right now. Maybe next time."
"I'll leave you to talk then, but you need anything, you just holler." Brooks pretended to sulk.
"She didn't offer me any damn pie."
Russ managed a wan smile.
"She's got to feel sorry for you first. Did you know about the passports?" "I knew we were going to request it, but I didn't figure Reingold would rule on our side. He surprised me, and maybe that's on me. He's let the Blake kid slide on plenty before today." "Yeah, he has, and I think he's feeling the weight of that. He may be Blake's golf buddy, but he can't, and I think won't, brush off this kind of thing. I believe His Honor was well and truly pissed this morning, and I believe Blake isn't going to let Harry talk his boy into a plea on this. He wants the trial because he absolutely believes he and his are too fucking important to bend to the law. That boy's going down, Russ, and he may go down harder than I expected. I'm not sorry about it. Can't say as I am either.
Brooke shifted forward.
I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes because I'm dead sure Blake's going to do whatever he can to buy you off or pressure you into dropping the assault charges. He gets that gone, he's going to figure it's mostly about money. Pay the $2, so to speak, try to manipulate community service and some rehab, a suspended sentence for the boy.
Russ's bruised mouth set like stone.
It's not going to happen, Brooks. Did you see my daddy this morning? He looks 10 years older. I don't give a damn about taking the punch, and if it wasn't for the rest, I'd let it go. But I'm not going to shrug this off so that little bastard slides through this. Good. If Blake starts hounding you, let me know. I'll mention harassment charges and restraining orders.
Russ sat back, and his smile came easier.
Which one of them are you really after? It's 2 for 1 as I see it. They both need a good, swift kick. I don't know if Justin was born an asshole, but his daddy sure as hell helped make him a bigger one.
He stirred at his coffee, but found he didn't have a taste for it.
I didn't see his mama in court. Word is Mrs. Blake's embarrassed and tired out, about done with it, and Blake's ordered her to keep it shut. He runs that house. That may be, but he doesn't run this town. Do you, Chief? I protect and serve,
Brooke said with a glance out the window.
The Blakes are going to learn what that means. How about you, Mr. Mayor? It may be tougher to win an election with Blake backing whoever I run against, but I'm in it. New times.
Brooks lifted his mug in toast.
Good times. You're pretty sassy this morning, son. Is it all about Rheingold's rulings? That didn't suck, but I've got me a fascinating, beautiful woman I'm falling for. Falling hard. Quick work. In the blood. My mama and daddy barely did more than look at each other, and that was that. She's got me, Russ. Right here.
He tapped a fist on his heart.
Sure it's not considerably lower where she's got you? There, too, but Jesus, Russ, she does it for me. I just think about her, and I'm there. I look at her, and I swear I could look at her for hours. Days.
Brooks let out a half laugh, edged with a little surprise.
I'm done. I'm gone. If you don't bring her over for dinner, Celine's going to see to it my life's not worth living. I'll work on it. I figure I'm going to have the women in my family making the same demand before much longer. Abigail's the type who needs to be eased in. Something in there, he added. Something from before. She's not ready to let me in on that yet. I'm working on that, too. So she hasn't figured out you'll just keep digging, nudging, and chewing until you know what you want to know or get what you want to get? I'm blinding her with affability and charm. How long do you figure that'll last? I've got a little more to spare. She needs help. She just doesn't know it, or isn't ready to take it. Yet.
Abigail spent the morning happily at her computer, redesigning and personalizing the security system for a law firm in Rochester. She was particularly pleased with the results, as she'd gotten the job on referral and had nearly lost it as the senior partner had balked when she'd refused to meet with him personally. She believed he and the other partners would be more than satisfied with the system and her suggestions. If they weren't, it was the price she paid for doing business on her terms. To give her mind a rest, she shifted gears into gardening. She wanted to create a butterfly garden along the south corner of her cabin, and had read and researched how to best accomplish the goal. With Bert by her side, she gathered tools, loaded her wheelbarrow. It pleased her to see the little vegetable garden she'd already planted doing so well, to smell the herbs soaking up the sunshine as she wheeled by. Her narrow stream bubbled along, and birds sang to its tune. Through the thickening trees, a frisky breeze danced, and wild dogwood peeked out like flowery ghosts. She was happy, she realized as she marked off her plot with string and stakes. Really happy. With spring, with work, with her home, with Brooks. Had she been really happy before? Surely there had been moments, at least during her childhood, in her brief time at Harvard, even moments after everything changed so completely, when she'd been happy. But she couldn't remember ever feeling quite like this. Nervous. Brooks was right about the nerves, and she wasn't entirely sure she liked his being right. But over them and through them was a kind of lightness she didn't know quite what to do with. As she switched on her tiller, she hummed along with its churning grind, with the bubbling brook, with the bird song. No, she didn't know quite what to do with it, but if she could, she'd have held these moments, these feelings, tight, so tight, forever. She had satisfying work, had her gardening, which she enjoyed more than she'd ever imagined. She had a man she respected and enjoyed, more than she'd ever imagined, who would come to dinner, talk, laugh, be with her. It couldn't last, but what was the point in projecting, in making herself unhappy? Hold it tight, she reminded herself as she added compost to her soil. For the moment. She trundled her wheelbarrow back to the greenhouse, wandered through the smell of rich, moist earth, burgeoning flowers, sharp, strong greens, selecting the plants she'd nurtured for this particular project. Good, steady, physical labor in the warm afternoon. That made her happy, too. Who knew she had such a capacity for happy? She made 4 trips, her Glock against her hip, her dog trotting at her heels before she began to lay out the plan she'd sketched out on chilly winter nights. The cardinal flowers and cone flowers, the sweet-scented heliotrope mixed with airy lantana, the flow of verbena, the charm of New England asters, the elegance of oriental lilies for nectar. She had the sunflowers and hollyhocks and milkweed for host plants to tempt the adults to lay their eggs, the young caterpillars to feed. She arranged, rearranged, grouped, regrouped, gradually veering away from her initial, somewhat mathematical layout when she found the less rigid and exact pleased her eye. In case, she took out her phone and took pictures from several angles before she picked up her trowel to dig the first hole. An hour later, she stepped back and checked her progress before going inside for ice to add to the tea she'd left steeping in the sun. "It's going to be beautiful," she told Bert, "and we'll be able to sit on the porch and watch the butterflies. I think we'll draw hummingbirds, too. I love seeing all this grow and bloom, the butterflies and birds. We're putting down roots, Bert. The deeper they go, the more I want them." She closed her eyes, lifted her face to the sun. Oh, she loved the way the air sounded, loved the way it smelled. She loved the rhythm of work and pleasure she'd found here, the quiet moments, the busy ones. She loved the feel of her dog leaning against her leg, and the taste of tea cool on her throat. She loved Brooks. Her eyes popped open. No, she'd just gotten caught up in the happy moments here, in this euphoria of having everything just as she wanted, and she'd let herself mix that with what he'd said to her that morning, how he'd looked at her. Action and reaction, she told herself, nothing more. But what if it were more? Her alarm beeped, stiffening her spine and shoulders as she laid a hand on the butt of the Glock. She wasn't expecting a package. She walked quickly to the monitor she'd set up on the porch. She remembered the car even before she made out the driver. Brooks's mother, dear God, and 2 other women. talking, laughing as Sunny drove toward the house. Before she could decide what to do, the car rounded the last curve. Sunny gave the horn a cheery toot-toot when she spotted Abigail. "Hey there!" Sunny shouted out the car window before the three of them piled out. The woman in the front had to be Brooks's sister, Abigail thought. The coloring, the bone structure, the shape of the eyes and mouth were too similar not to be genetic. "Look at this! Butterfly garden!" "Yes, I've been working on it this afternoon." "Well, it's just going to be wonderful," Sunny told her. "Smell the heliotrope. I've got Plato in the car. Do you suppose Bert would like to meet him?" I suppose he would." "Mom is so busy worrying about introducing the dog, she doesn't worry about the humans. I'm Maya, Brooks's sister, and our middle sister, Sybil." "It's nice to meet you both," Abigail managed as her hand was gripped and shaken. "We blew the day off." Maya beamed out, a lanky woman with a pixie cut in streaky brunette. "Work, kids, man. We had ourselves a fancy ladies' lunch, and now we're heading in to do some shopping." "We thought you might like to come along with us," Sybil said. "Come along?" Baffled, off balance, one eye on her dog, Abigail tried to keep up. "Shopping," Maya repeated. "After, we're talking about frozen margaritas." The puppy bounced, rolled, nipped, and generally went crazy around and over Bert, who sat quivering, his gaze slanted toward Abigail. "Ami, jouez." Instantly he hunkered, head down, tail up and wagging, and playfully knocked Plato into an ungainly roll. "Aw, aren't they cute?" Sunny declared. "He won't hurt the puppy." "Honey, I can see that. That big boy's gentle as a lamb, and God knows Plato can use a little running around time. He's been in the car or on the leash all afternoon. Did you meet my two girls?" "Yes. We're trying to talk her into putting away her trowel and coming along for shopping and margaritas." Sybil offered Abigail a warm, easy smile that showed hints of dimples. "Thank you for asking." Abigail heard the stiffness in her voice when compared with the other women's ease. "But I really need to finish planting. I got a later start than I'd planned." "Well, it looks just beautiful." Sybil wandered over for a closer look. "I didn't inherit Mama's or Daddy's green thumb, so I'm envious." "It was very nice of you to come over and invite me." "It was," Maya agreed. "But mostly, Syb and I just wanted to get a close-up look at you and check out the woman who's got Brooks all tangled up." "Oh, you're not the type I imagined would hook him so good and proper." "Oh," was all Abigail could think of again. "Something's in Maya's mind," Sunny began, hooking an arm around her daughter. "It just rolls right off her tongue. I can be tactful and diplomatic, but it's not a natural state for me. Anyway, I meant it as a compliment, a good thing." "Thank you." Maya laughed. "You're welcome. Mostly, say, Brooks, in the past, tended toward the looks without necessarily much substance to back it up. But here you are, pretty and natural, strong and smart enough to live out here on your own, clever enough to plant a well-designed garden. I did get the green thumb, and you run your own business from what I'm told. And I guess since you got that big gun on your hip, you know how to take care of yourself." "Yes, I do." "Have you ever shot anyone?" "Maya, don't mind her," Sybil said. "She's the oldest and has the biggest mouth. Are you sure you wouldn't like to come with us?" "I really need to finish this garden, but thank you." "We'll have a cookout Sunday afternoon," Sunny announced. "Brooks'll bring you around." "Oh, thank you, but—" "Nothing fancy, just a backyard barbecue. And I've got some yellow flags I need to divide. I'll give you some. They'll like that sunny spot over by the brook. I'll round up that pup and we'll see you Sunday." "You You've been seeing Brooks for a while now, Maya commented. I suppose. You know how he just chips amiably away at you until he gets his way? Yes. Maya winked and grinned. He comes by it naturally. We'll see you Sunday. Don't worry. Sybil surprised Abigail by taking her hand as her sister walked off to help their mother with the puppy. It'll be fine. Your dog's all right with kids around? He wouldn't hurt anyone. Unless I tell him to, she thought. You bring him along. You'll feel easier having your dog with you. We're pretty nice people and inclined to like anyone who makes Brooks happy. You'll be fine, she said, and gave Abigail's hand a squeeze before she released it and walked back to the car. There was a lot of laughing and chattering, a lot of waving and honking. Shell-shocked, Abigail stood, her deliriously happy dog at her side, and politely lifted her hand as the O'Hara-Gleason women drove away. It was like being rolled over by a steamroller made of flowers, Abigail thought. It didn't really hurt. It was all very pretty and sweet-smelling, but you were still flattened. She wouldn't go, of course. It would be impossible on so many levels. Perhaps she'd write a polite note of regret to Brooks's mother. She put her gardening gloves back on. She wanted to finish the bed, plus she'd used finishing it as an excuse, so finish it she must and would. She'd never been asked to go shopping and have margaritas, and wondered, as she dug, what it was like. She knew people shopped even when they didn't need anything. She didn't understand the appeal, but she knew others did. She thought of that day, so long ago, in the mall with Julie. How much fun it had been, how exhilarating and liberating it had been to try on clothes and shoes with a friend. Of course, they hadn't been friends, not really friends. The entire interlude had been one of chance and circumstance and mutual need. And that interlude had led to disaster and tragedy. She knew, logically, the harmless rebellion of buying clothes and shoes hadn't caused the tragedy. Even her own reckless stupidity of forging the IDs, agreeing to go to the club, hadn't caused the events that followed. The Volkoffs and Yakov Korotky held that responsibility. And yet, how could she not link them together, not feel the weight and the guilt even after all this time? The argument with her mother had lit the chain reaction that had ended with the explosion of the safe house. If not fully responsible, she had been one of the links in that chain. And still, as she planted, she wondered what it was like to ride in a car with women who laughed, to shop for unnecessary things, to drink margaritas and gossip. And wondering took some of the bloom off the pleasure of the sounds and smells of her solitude. She planted it all, added more, worked through the afternoon into soft evening, wheeling bags of mulch to the bed. Filthy, sweaty, satisfied, she set up the sprinklers just as her alarm signaled again. This time she saw Brooks driving toward the house. She'd lost track of time, she realized. She'd meant to go in, put the lasagna on warm in the oven before he arrived, and had certainly hoped to have cleaned up at least a little. Well, look at that. He got out, a bouquet of purple irises in his hand. These feel a little dinky now. They're beautiful. It's the second time you brought me flowers. You're the only one who ever has. He made them both a silent promise to bring them often. He handed them to her, pulled out a rawhide for Bert. Didn't forget you, big guy. You must have worked half the day putting that bed in. Not quite that long, but it took some time. I want butterflies. You're going to get them. It's pretty as it can be, Abigail. So are you. I'm dirty, she said, backing up when he bent to kiss her. I don't mind a bit. You know I'd have given you a hand with the planting.
I'm good at it.
I got started and caught up in it.
Why don't I get us some wine? We can sit out here and admire your work.
I need to shower and put the lasagna in to warm.
Go on, get your shower. I can put the food in, get the wine. From the looks of things, you worked harder than I did today. Here. He took the flowers back. I'll put them in water for you.
What? He said when she only stared at him. Nothing. I won't be long. Not sure what to do, he concluded, when offered the most basic and minimal help. But she'd taken it, he thought, as he went in, filled her vase. And without argument or excuses. That was a step forward. He put the flowers on the counter, expecting she'd fuss with the arrangement later, and likely when he wasn't around. He switched the oven, set it low, slid the casserole in. He took the wine and 2 glasses out on the front porch, and, after pouring, carried his own glass over to lean on the post, study her flowers. He knew enough about gardening to be sure the job had taken her hours, knew enough about gardening artfully to be sure she had a knack for color and texture and flow. And he knew enough about people to be sure the planting of it was another mark of ownership, of settling in. Her place done her way. A good sign. When she stepped out, he turned to her. Her damp hair curled a little around her face, and she smelled as fresh as spring itself.
It's my first spring back in the Ozarks, he said, picking up her glass to offer it. I'm watching it come back to life, the hills greening up, the wildflowers bursting, the rivers streaming through it all. The light, the shadows, sunlight on fields of row crops freshly planted, all of it new again for another season. And I know there's nowhere else I want to be. This is home again, for the rest of it.
I feel that way. It's the first time I've felt that way. I like it.
It's good you do. I look at you, Abigail, smelling of that spring, your flowers blooming or waiting to, your eyes so serious, so goddamn beautiful, and I feel the same. There's nowhere else. No one else.
I don't know what to do with how you make me feel. And I'm afraid of what my life will be if this changes and I never feel this way again.
How do I make you feel?
Happy. So happy. And terrified and confused.
We'll work on the happy until you're easy and sure.
She set down her wine, went to him, held on. I may never be.
You came outside without your gun.
You have yours. He smiled into her hair.
That's something, then. That's trust, and a good start.
She didn't know, couldn't analyze through all the feelings. We can sit on the steps, and you could tell me what happened this morning.
We can do that.
He tipped her face back, kissed her lightly.
'Cause I'm feeling good about it.
Chapter 19. He filled her in while the shadows lengthened and her new garden soaked up the gentle shower from her sprinklers. She'd always found the law fascinating, the ins and outs of the process, the illogic, and, in her opinion, often the bias, infused into the rules and codes and procedures by the human factor. Justice seemed so clear-cut to her, but the law that sought it, enforced it, was murky and slippery. I don't understand why, because they have money, they should be released.
Innocent till proven guilty.
But they are guilty, she insisted, and it has been proven. They rented the room and caused the damage. Justin Blake assaulted your friend in front of witnesses.
They're entitled to their day in court.
She shook her head. But now they're free to use money or intimidation against those witnesses and the others involved. or to run, or to craft delays. Your friends suffered a loss, and the people who caused it are free to go about their lives and business. The legal system is very flawed.
That may be, but without it, chaos.
From her experience, chaos came with it. Consequences, punishment, justice should be swift and constant, without the escape hatches of money, clever lawyers, and illogical rulings.
I imagine most mobs think that when they get a rope.
She frowned at him. You arrest people who break the law. You know they've broken the law when you do so. You should be frustrated, even angry, knowing one of them finds a way through a legal loophole or, due to human failure, isn't punished for the crime.
I'd rather see a guilty man go free than an innocent one go down. Sometimes there are reasons to break the law. I'm not talking about our 3 current assholes, but in general.
Obviously relaxed, Brooks stretched out his legs, gave Bert a little rub with his foot.
It's not always black and white, right and wrong. If you don't consider all the shades and circumstances, you haven't reached justice.
You believe that? The muscles in her belly twisted, vibrated. That there can be reasons to break the law?
Sure there are. Self-defense, defense of others, or something as simple as speeding. Your wife's in labor? I'm not going to cite you for breaking the speed limit on the way to the hospital.
You'd consider the circumstances.
Sure. Back when I was on patrol, we got called in on an assault. This guy went into a bar and beat the shit out of his uncle. We'll call him Uncle Harry. Now, we've got to take the guy in on the assault, but it turns out Uncle Harry's been messing with the guy's 12-year-old daughter. Yeah, he should have just called the cops and child services on it, but was he wrong to break Uncle Harry's face? I don't think so. You have to look at the whole picture, weigh those circumstances. That's what the courts are supposed to do.
Point of view, she murmured.
Yeah, point of view.
He trailed a finger down her arm.
Have you broken the law, Abigail?
It was a door, she knew, that he invited her to walk through. But what if it locked behind her? I've never had a speeding ticket, but I've exceeded the posted limit. I'm going to check the lasagna. When he wandered in a few minutes later, she was standing at the counter, slicing tomatoes. I harvested some tomatoes and basil from the greenhouse earlier.
You've been busy.
I like to be busy. I completed a contract a bit earlier than I projected, so I rewarded myself with gardening. And I had visitors.
Is that so?
Your mother and sisters. He was on the point of topping off her wine.
Say what again?
They were out this way. They'd had what your mother called a fancy ladies' lunch and were going shopping and to drink frozen margaritas. They invited me to join them.
Uh-huh.
Maya explained they essentially came by to check me out. I liked her honesty, though at the time it was somewhat unnerving. Brooks let out a sound that might have been a laugh.
She can be.
They had Play-Doh with them. Bert enjoyed playing with him.
I bet.
They laugh a lot.
Bert and Play-Doh?
No. And that made her laugh. Your mother and sisters. They seem very happy. They seem like friends as well as relatives.
I'd say they are. We are.
Your other sister, Sybil, has a kind and gentle way. You appear to have qualities of both your siblings. You also share a strong physical resemblance, particularly with Maya.
Did Maya tell you embarrassing stories about me?
No, though I would have been interested. I suspect she was more curious about me. She said when it came to women, to relationships. Abigail paused a moment as she layered slices of buffalo mozzarella with the tomatoes. In the past, you tended toward the looks without necessarily much substance to back it up. Brooks watched her as she spoke, as she perfected the pattern on the dish.
I bet that's word for word.
Paraphrasing can impart a different tenor, even a different meaning.
Can't argue.
Is it true? He considered, shrugged.
I guess it is, now that I think about it.
I think it's flattering. And it also spoke to the novelty she'd brought up that morning. Novelty wore off.
What surprises me is they had you 3-1 and took no for an answer.
I was obviously and honestly deeply involved with the garden. She picked up the wine now, drank. Your mother did, however, invite me to an impromptu backyard barbecue this Sunday.
He laughed, lifted his glass in salute. See, they didn't take no for an answer.
She hadn't considered that, and now saw Brooks was right. Your mother seemed to ignore my reasonable excuse to decline. I thought it might be better to write her a polite note of regret.
Why? She makes great potato salad.
I have my gardening and household chores on my schedule for Sunday.
Chicken.
I'm sure your mother makes very nice chicken, but
no, you're a chicken.
He made a clucking sound that deepened her frown and stirred her temper. There's no need to be rude.
Sometimes honest is rude. Look, there's no reason to be nervous about hanging out in the backyard and eating potato salad. You'll have fun.
No, I won't, because I'll have neglected my schedule. And I don't know how to behave at a backyard barbecue. I don't know how to have conversations with all those people I don't know or barely know, or how to meet the curiosity that would, I assume, be aimed at me because you and I have been having sex.
That's a lot of don't knows, Brooks decided. But I can help you with all of it. I can give you a hand with the gardening and household chores beforehand. You do just fine with conversations, but I'll stick with you until you're comfortable. And they may be curious, but they're disposed to like you because I do, and my mother does. Plus, I'll make you a promise.
He paused now, waited until she lifted her gaze to his. What promise?
You give it an hour, and if you're not having a good time, I'll make an excuse. I'll say I've got a call I have to handle, and we'll go.
You'd lie to your family?
Yeah, I would. They'd know I'm lying and understand.
There, she thought, one of the complications that tangled into social duties and interpersonal relationships. I think it's best to avoid all of that and just send a note of regret.
She'll just come fetch you.
That stopped her slicing again. That's not true.
It's gospel, honey. She'll figure you're too shy or too stubborn. If she decides on shy, she'll mother you over there. If she decides on stubborn, she'll push you every mile from here to there.
I'm not shy or stubborn.
You're both, with some of that clucker tossed in.
Deliberately, she brought the knife down on the board a little harder than necessary. I don't see the wisdom in insulting me when I'm preparing you a meal.
I don't see being shy or stubborn as insulting, and everybody's got a little clucker pecking around, depending on the circumstances.
What are your circumstances?
That's a change of subject, but I'll give it to you. Semi-annual dentist visits, wolf spiders, and karaoke.
Karaoke? That's funny.
Not when I do it. Anyway, take my word. Give it an hour. An hour won't hurt you.
I'll think about it.
Good enough. I'm repeating myself from last night, but that sure smells good.
Hopefully tonight will be more quiet and peaceful than last. It proved to be until shortly after 2 a.m. When her alarm sounded, she rolled out of bed, reaching for the gun on her nightstand, and gripped it before her feet hit the floor.
Take it easy.
Brooks's voice stayed utterly calm,
Ease it down, Abigail.
You too, he said to the dog, who poised at her feet, a low growl in his throat. Someone's coming.
I got that. No, don't turn on the light. If it's somebody up to mischief, it's better if they don't know we know.
I don't recognize this car, she said as she turned to the monitor.
I do. Shit.
His sigh was more fatigued than annoyed.
It's Doyle Parsons, so that would be Justin Blake and his pal Chad Cartwright and Doyle. Let me get my pants on. I'll take care of it.
There are only 2 people in the car. Brooks jerked on his pants, grabbed his shirt, shrugging into it as he walked back to study the monitor.
Either Chad got some sense and stayed home, or they dropped him off to circle around the back. Since I don't credit them with that many smarts, I'd say Chad skipped the party.
Firmly, Brooks laid a hand on her shoulder.
It's not about you, Abigail. Relax.
I don't relax when someone sneaks onto my property at 2 a.m. It's not reasonable to expect me to relax.
Good point.
He took her arms, but loosely, rubbing his way up and down them.
I'm just saying they're looking to cause me some grief, not you. Most likely creeping up here. See there, they're pulling off some ways from the house. Planning on slashing my tires, or maybe spray painting some obscenities on my car. Figuring I'll get a rude surprise come morning. Jesus, high as hot air balloons, the both of them.
If they're under the influence of drugs, they're unlikely to be rational.
Rational isn't Justin's default position, straight or high.
And coming here like this told Brooks he was escalating, as Tyball had been. Watching them, he took the time to button his shirt.
Go on and call 911. Ash is on call tonight. You just give him the situation. I'll go out and see to it.
He pulled on boots in case he had to chase them down, strapped on his weapon.
You and Bert stay inside.
I don't need or want to be protected from a pair of delinquents.
Abigail, I'm the one with the badge.
His tone brooked no argument.
And I'm the one they're here to screw with. No point getting them riled up toward you. Call it in and wait for me.
He went downstairs in the backwash of her outdoor security lights, taking his time. The bust would be clearer, stick harder, if he walked out on them doing something, or about to, rather than just creeping around, muffling the snorting giggles of the drunk and/or high. Abigail would get her view of justice now, he thought, as the pair of them would spend the time until their trial in jail. He watched them through the window, and as he'd anticipated, they crouched beside his cruiser. Justin opened a bag, tossed a spray can to Doyle. He let them get started. The cruiser would need a paint job, but the evidence would be unarguable. Then he stepped to the front door, dealt with the locks, and walked out.
You boys lost?
Doyle dropped the can and fell back on his ass.
Sorry to interrupt your field trip, but I believe the half-wit pair of you are trespassing. We'll add vandalism to that, and seeing as you've just vandalized police property, it's a tough one for you. And I'm just betting I could find controlled substances and/or alcohol in your possession and in your bloodstream. To sum up, boys, you're royally fucked.
Brooks shook his head when Doyle tried to scramble to his feet.
You run, Doyle. I'll add on fleeing and resisting. I know where you live, you idiot, so stay down, stay put. Justin, you're going to want to let me see your hands. You want to see my hands?
Justin punched the knife he held into the rear tire, then surged to his feet.
Gonna let the air out of you next, asshole. Let me get this straight. You've got a knife. I've got a gun. See this?
Brooks drew it almost casually.
And I'm the asshole? Justin, you are deeply, deeply stupid. Now toss that knife down, then take a look at your marginally brighter friend. See how he's face down with his hands linked behind his head? Do that.
In the security lights, Brooks noted Justin's pupils were the size of pinpricks.
"You're not going to shoot me. You haven't got the stomach for it."
"I think he does." With her favored Glock in her hand, Abigail stepped out from the side of the house. "But if he doesn't shoot you, I will."
"Hiding behind a woman now, Gleason?"
Brooks shifted just a little, not only to block Abigail if Justin was stupid enough to come for them with the knife, but because he wasn't sure at all she wouldn't shoot the moron.
"Do I look like I'm hiding?"
"I'd like to shoot him," Abigail said conversationally. "He's trespassing, and he's armed, so I believe I'm within my rights. I could shoot him in the leg. I'm a very good shot, as you know."
"Abigail."
Torn between amusement and concern, Brooks stepped forward.
"Drop that knife now, Justin, before this gets ugly. You're not putting me in jail."
How many ways can you be wrong tonight? Brooks wondered. Justin lunged forward.
"Don't shoot him, for Christ's sake!"
Brooks shouted. He blocked the knife hand with his left arm, swung up his right elbow, and jabbed it into Justin's nose. He heard the satisfying crunch an instant before blood spurted. As the knife dropped, he simply gripped Justin by the collar, propelled him forward so he stumbled to his knees. Out of patience, he shoved Justin down on his face, put a boot on his neck.
"Abigail, do me a favor and go up and get my cuffs, will you?"
"I have them." Brooks lifted his brows when she pulled them out of her back pocket.
"You're a planner. Toss 'em over."
He caught them, knelt down to yank Justin's arms behind his back.
"Doyle, you keep still now, or Ms. Lowry might shoot you in the leg."
"Yes, sir. I didn't know he was going to do that, I swear. We were just going to mess around with the cruiser, I swear to God."
"Keep quiet, Doyle. You're too stupid to talk."
Brooks glanced up as he heard the siren.
Jesus, what's he doing coming in hot?
"I saw the knife when I was relating the situation. Your deputy became very concerned."
"All right."
"Hell, Justin, you just came at a cop with a knife. That's assault with a deadly on a police officer.
The prosecutor might even bump that to attempted murder when we add in the trash talk. You're done, boy, and it didn't have to go like this. You're under arrest for trespassing, vandalism, defacing police property, and assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. You have the right to remain silent."
"You broke my fucking nose! I'll kill you for that!"
"Do yourself a favor, take that right to silence to heart."
He finished the Miranda as he spotted the lights from Ash's cruiser zipping down the road.
"Doyle, where's Chad Cartwright?"
"He wouldn't come. Said he was in enough trouble and his daddy's likely to kick his ass he gets in more."
A glimmer of sanity.
He got to his feet as Ash slammed out of his car.
"Chief, you all right? Jesus, you're bleeding." "What? Where?" "Shit."
Brooks looked down, hissed in disgust.
"That's Justin's nose blood. God damn it, I liked this shirt."
"You should soak it in cold water and salt." Both Brooks and his deputy looked over to where Abigail stood, the dog at full alert at her side.
"Ma'am,"
Ash said. Sirens screamed out again.
"What the hell, Ash?" "It'll be Boyd. When Ms. Lowry reported she saw a knife and only had a visual on 2 when this bunch usually runs in 3, I thought I should call Boyd in for backup. Are you sure he didn't cut you?" "Yeah, I'm sure. He was stupid enough to try, so he's charged with assault on a police officer. I guess you and Boyd can take the pair of them in. I'll be along shortly." "All right, Chief. Sorry for the trouble, Ms. Lowry."
"You didn't cause it, Deputy Heiderman." Brooks stepped over to her.
"Why don't you take Bert and go on inside? I'll be in just a couple minutes."
"Yes." She signaled to the dog and went back the way she'd come. In the kitchen, she rewarded Bert with one of his favorite cookies, then put on coffee. She considered a moment, then opened a container to put human cookies on a plate. Somehow it seemed like the right thing to do. She sat at the table and watched Brooks and the others on the monitor. The boy he'd called Doyle cried a little, but she found she couldn't feel any sympathy. Justin remained sullen, snarling like a bad dog in her opinion, sneering out of eyes she expected would be swollen and bruised from the broken nose shortly. Once the prisoners were secured in the back of the first deputy's cruiser, Brooks spoke to his men for another moment, then said something that made them laugh. Breaking the tension, she deduced. Yes, that would be a sign of a good leader. She started to rise and go unlock the front door, but saw Brooks head toward the back as she had. Instead, she walked over and poured his coffee, adding the sugar as he liked it. He stepped in, saw the plate.
Cookies?
I thought you might want something.
I might. I've got to go in and deal with this.
Yes, of course. He picked up his coffee, took a cookie.
I don't have to ask if you're all right. Steady as a rock, right on through it.
He's a stupid, violent boy, but we were never in any real danger. You might have been cut, which would have been upsetting. Was he right?
Who and about what?
Justin Blake, when he said you wouldn't shoot him. Biting into the cookie, Brooks leaned back in that easy way he had.
Mostly. If I'd had to, yeah, but I didn't have to. Better all around. Would you have shot him?
Yes. She didn't hesitate. I'd wondered if I could or would, as he's young and stupid. But yes, if he'd cut you, I would have. But you have excellent reflexes, and he telegraphed his move and was slow due, I suspect, to drugs or alcohol. You weren't afraid.
You gave me a moment, initially. I told you to stay inside.
And I told you I didn't need or want to be protected. It's my property, and I was armed.
As always.
He took another bite of the cookie. Added to that, though nothing registered on the monitor, I wanted to be sure there wasn't a third who might have flanked you.
I appreciate it.
You should soak that shirt before the stain sets.
I've got a spare at the station. Abigail, I'm going to need for you to give a statement. You can come in, or I can send one of my men to take it here.
Oh, yes, of course. I couldn't give you the statement under the circumstances.
No.
I think I'd prefer to go in. I could do it now.
Morning's fine.
If I came in now, it would be done. I'd rather it be done. I'll change and drive in now.
I can wait for you.
That's all right. You should go now. Do what you need to do.
Yeah. The way you handled this makes me think you've handled trouble before. I'm hoping you'll trust me enough to tell me about that someday soon.
Wanting the link, she curled her fingers around his wrists for a moment. If I could tell anyone, it would be you.
Okay, then.
He set the coffee down, took her face in his hands, and kissed her.
Thanks for the backup. And the cookie.
You're welcome. 30 minutes behind Brooks, Abigail walked into the station. The older deputy, Boyd Fitzwater, she remembered, immediately got up from his desk and came around to meet her.
Ms. Lowry, we sure appreciate you coming in like this. The chief's in his office, talking to the prosecutor and all. I'm going to take your statement.
Yes.
You want some coffee? Something cold?
No, thank you.
We can sit down right here. Should be quiet. Ash is back with the paramedic we called in to treat the Blake boy's nose.
He smiled when he said it.
It's busted good.
I'm sure a broken nose is preferable to a bullet. I believe Chief Gleason would have been justified in firing his weapon when Justin lunged toward him with the knife.
I'm not going to argue. But if we could start this from the beginning, I'm going to record it so we get it all straight. I'll be taking notes, too. All right with you?
Of course.
All righty, then.
Boyd switched on a tape recorder, read off the date, the time, the names of all involved.
Ms. Lowry, Why don't you just tell me what happened tonight?
At 2:07 a.m., my perimeter alarm signaled a breach. She spoke clearly, precisely. As Chief Gleason had indicated, Justin Blake most usually traveled with 2 individuals. I wanted to be certain there wasn't indeed a third man who might have circled around. My alarms didn't register, but I felt it best to be certain. After I spoke with Deputy Heiderman on the phone, I took my dog and went out the back of the house. My dog showed no sign of detecting anyone in that area, so I continued around to the front, where I saw Chief Gleason and the 2 trespassers. One, identified as Doyle Parsons, was already on the ground, and Justin Blake continued to crouch by the left rear tire of Chief Gleason's police cruiser.
Did you hear anybody say anything?
Oh yes, quite clearly. It was a quiet night. Chief Gleason said to Justin, "You're going to want to show me your hands." I should add that at this time Chief Gleason's weapon was secured in his holster. Justin responded, "You want to see my hands?" and drove the knife he held in his right hand into the left rear tire. She continued, giving Boyd a word-for-word, move-by-move statement. Boyd interrupted once or twice to clarify.
That's really detailed.
I have an eidetic memory. You might call it photographic, she added, though it always irked her to explain with that inaccuracy.
That's really helpful, Ms. Lowry.
I hope so. He would have killed Brooks if he could have. Though he reached over to turn off the tape recorder, Boyd lifted his hand from it, sat back.
Ma'am?
Justin Blake. He would have stabbed Chief Gleason, and he would have killed him if he could have. His intent was very clear, as was his anger and, I think, his fear. It's what he knows, you see, to hurt or eliminate what gets in his way, what interferes. There are people who simply believe their own wants and wishes are above everything and everyone else. She'd seen murder, she thought. The boy didn't remind her of the cold, mechanical Korotki. He lacked that efficiency and dispassion. But he'd made her think of Ilya, of the hot rage on Ilya's face when he'd cursed and kicked his dead cousin. He might not have killed or caused serious physical harm before tonight. I think if he had, he wouldn't have been so inept at this attempt. But if it hadn't been this, tonight, it would have been someone else, another night, someone without Chief Gleason's resources, reflexes, and equanimity. There would have been more to clean up than a broken nose.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. It was upsetting, more than I realized. My opinion isn't relevant. If that's all you need, I'd like to go home.
I can get somebody to drive you.
No, I'm fine to drive. Thank you, Deputy. You've been very kind. She started for the door, paused when Brooks called her name. He crossed over, laid a hand on her arm.
Be a minute, he told Boyd, then led her outside. Are you okay?
Yes, I told you.
And you just told Boyd it was more upsetting than you realized.
It was, but that doesn't mean I'm not all right. I am tired, though. I think I'll go home and get some more sleep.
Good. I'll call or swing by later, just to see how you are.
You can't worry about me. I don't need it. Didn't want it, any more than she wanted Justin Blake to remind her of Ilya Volkov. Did you soak your shirt? Cold water and salt?
I trashed it. I'd see his blood on there whether it was there or not. I don't much care for that shirt anymore.
She thought of a pretty sweater, stained with blood. I understand. You're tired, too. She let herself touch his face. I hope you can get a little sleep.
I wouldn't mind it. You drive safe, Abigail.
He kissed her forehead, then her lips, before stepping over to open her car door.
You were right, what you said in there. It was only a matter of time before he pulled a knife or a gun, picked up a bat, before he did somebody serious harm.
I know.
You don't have to worry about him anymore.
Then I won't." Leading with emotion, she threw her arms around him, held tight. "I'm very glad you have good reflexes." She slid into the car and drove away. Chapter 20. Just past 3 that afternoon, Abigail watched on her monitor as a dark Mercedes sedan cruised toward her house. The look of it sent a quick tingle up her spine. She didn't recognize the car, the driver, late 30s, early 40s, broad shoulders, short, dark hair, or the passenger, 50-ish, dark gray hair, wide face. She keyed the license plate into her system, reminding herself she was prepared for anything. Her quick search through DMV records popped Lincoln Blake as the owner, and her shoulders relaxed. An annoying interruption, but not a threat. Blake looked prosperous, she noted, when he got out of the passenger side. It struck her that he looked deliberately prosperous in his perfectly cut suit and city shoes. The second man also wore a suit and carried a briefcase. She believed she saw a slight bulge on his right hip that disturbed the line of his jacket. He carried a weapon. Well, she thought, so did she. She considered ignoring the knock on her door. She wasn't under any obligation to answer, to speak with the father of the boy who'd tried to kill Brooks. But she also considered the fact that a man like Blake, from everything she'd heard and intuited about him, wouldn't simply walk away. In any case, she was a little curious. With Bert at her side, she opened the front door.
"Miss Lowry."
Blake offered a wide smile and his hand.
"Forgive the intrusion. I'm Lincoln Blake, one of your neighbors."
"Your home is several miles away, in fact, on the other side of Bickford. Therefore, you don't live close enough to my property to be considered a neighbor."
"We're all neighbors here," Blake said jovially. "This is my personal assistant, Mark. I'd like to apologize for my son's inadvertent trespass on your property last night. May we come in, discuss this situation?"
No. It always puzzled her why people looked so surprised, even annoyed, when they asked a question and the response was negative.
"Now, Miss Lowry, I came out here to offer my apologies. As I understand, my son caused you some inconvenience, and to sort this all out, it'll be helpful if we could be comfortable while we talk this out."
"I'm comfortable. Thank you for your apology, Mr. Blake, though it hardly applies, as it was your son who came on my property without permission in the middle of the night and who attempted to stab Chief Gleason. I believe the police are sorting all this out, and we really don't have anything to discuss at this point."
"Now, that's just why I came by. I dislike trying to have a conversation through a doorway."
"I dislike having strangers in my house. I'd like you to go now. You can discuss this with the police."
"I'm not finished." He jabbed out a finger. "I understand you're friendly with Brooks Gleason, and that—"
"Yes, we are friendly. He wouldn't have been here at 2 a.m. when your son and your son's friend came illegally onto my property with the intent to deface Chief Gleason's police cruiser if we weren't friendly. However, my relationship with Chief Gleason doesn't alter the facts."
"One fact is, you haven't lived here long. You're not fully aware of my position in this community or the history behind it."
She wondered, sincerely, why he thought any of that was relevant, but didn't bother to ask. "I'm aware, and your position and history don't alter the facts of what transpired here early this morning. It was very disturbing to be awakened in that manner, and to witness your son attack Chief Gleason with a knife."
"Fact."
Blake slapped an index finger on his open palm.
"It was the middle of the night, and therefore dark. I have no doubt Brooks Gleason goaded my boy, threatened him. Justin was simply defending himself."
That's inaccurate, Abigail said calmly. My security lights were on. I have excellent vision and was less than 10 feet away during the attempted assault. Chief Gleason clearly asked your son to show his hands, and when your son did so, it was, first, to puncture the cruiser's tire, and second, to threaten Brooks with the knife.
My son!
I haven't finished correcting your inaccuracies, she pointed out, and stunned Blake into momentary silence. Only then, when your son threatened him verbally and with gestures, did Brooks draw his weapon, and still your son would not drop the knife. Instead, even when I stepped out with my own weapon, your son lunged at Brooks with the knife. In my opinion, Brooks would have been fully justified in shooting your son at that time, but he chose to disarm him hand to hand at a greater risk to his own safety.
Nobody knows you around here. You're an odd, solitary woman with no background or history in the community. If and when you tell that ridiculous story in court, my lawyers will rip your testimony to bits and humiliate you.
I don't think so, but I'm sure your lawyers will do their jobs. If that's all, I'd like you to leave.
You just wait a damn minute.
Blake stepped forward, and Bert quivered, growled. You're upsetting my dog, Abigail said coldly. And if your assistant attempts to draw his sidearm, I'll release my dog. I can assure you he'll move faster than he can draw his weapon. I'm also armed, as you can plainly see. I'm a very good shot. I don't like strangers coming to my home trying to intimidate and threaten me. I don't like men who raise violent, angry young men. Like Sergei Volkov, she thought. I don't like you, Mr. Blake, and I'll ask you to leave for the last time.
I came here to settle this with you, to apologize and offer you compensation for the inconvenience.
Compensation?
$10,000. A generous apology for a mishap, for a misunderstanding.
It certainly would be, Abigail agreed.
The money's yours, in cash, for your agreement that this was indeed a misunderstanding.
Your proposal is I accept $10,000 in cash from you to misrepresent what happened here this morning.
Don't be stubborn. My proposal is you accept the cash in my assistant's briefcase as an apology, and you simply agree what occurred here was a misunderstanding. You'll also have my word that my son will never step foot on your property again.
First, your word can hardly regulate your son's behavior. Second, it would be your son, not you, who owes me an apology for this morning. And last, your proposal constitutes a bribe, an exchange of money for my misrepresenting the facts. I believe attempting to bribe a witness in a criminal investigation is a crime. The simplest solution, and certainly the best outcome for you, is for me to say, no thank you, and goodbye. She stepped back, shut the door, clicked the locks in place. He actually beat on the door with his fist. It didn't surprise her, Abigail realized. His son had inherited that same unstable temperament and illusion of entitlement. With her hand resting lightly on the butt of her gun, she walked back to the kitchen monitor, watched the assistant attempt to calm his employer down. She didn't want to call the police. More trouble, more interruptions, more ugly behavior. It had shaken her a little. There was no shame in admitting it. But she'd stood up to the intimidation, the threats. No panic, she thought now, no urge to run. didn't believe in fate, in anything being meant. But if she did, maybe, theoretically, she'd been meant to go through these two experiences, the reminder of Ilya, and now of his father, to prove to herself she could and would stand up. She wouldn't run again. If she believed in fate. We'll give him 2 minutes, from now, to regain some composure and leave. If he doesn't, we'll go out again. But this time, she determined, her weapon would be in her hand, not in her holster. As she meant it literally, she set the timer on her watch and continued to observe him on the monitor. His blood pressure must be at dangerous levels, she thought, as his face darkened, his eyes literally bulged. She could see the rapid rise and fall of his prosperous chest as he shouted at his assistant. She hoped she wouldn't have to call for medical assistance as well as the authorities. All she wanted to do was finish her work and spend a little time working in her gardens. This man's difficulties weren't hers. At the 1-minute, 42-second mark, Blake stormed back to the car. Abigail let out a small sigh of relief as the assistant made the 3/4 turn and drove away. All these years, she thought, was it irony she was once again a witness to a crime, and once again the subject of threats and intimidation? No, she didn't believe in fate, and yet it certainly felt as though fate had decided to twist her life and circle it right back to where she'd begun. It was something to think about. She looked at her work, sighed again. "I think we'll take a walk," she said to Bert. "I'm too annoyed to work right now." Her mood leveled out in the air, calmed when she walked through the trees, studied the progress of wildflowers, considered again her private seating area with its view of the hills. She would start a search for the proper bench very soon. She felt happy, she realized, when she received a text from Brooks. "How about I pick up some Chinese? Don't cook. You're probably tired." She considered, texted back. "I'm not tired, but I like Chinese food. Thank you." Moments later, she got another text. "You're welcome." It made her laugh, picked up her mood a few more notches. Since she was already out, she gave Bert a full hour of exercise, then went back home to work with a clear mind. She lost track of time, a rarity for her, and was prepared to be annoyed when her alarm beeped again. If that disagreeable man had come back, she wouldn't be so polite, she determined. Her mood shifted yet again when she saw Brooks's cruiser. A check of the time showed her she'd worked past 6. No gardening today, she thought, and put the lack of that pleasure on the head of the disagreeable man and his stony-faced assistant. But she shut down and went to the door happy, again, at the prospect of having dinner with Brooks. Her smile of greeting turned to concern when she saw his face. "You didn't sleep." "We had a lot going on." "You look very tired. Here, let me take some of that. You brought a great deal of food for 2 people. "You know what they say about Chinese food." "It's not really true. You won't be hungry an hour later if you eat properly. I see you brought pigeon to go with it." "I did." "Chinese beer," she said as she led the way in. "Chinese villagers brewed beer as far back as 7000 BC.
"I don't think the Zhu Jiang I picked up is that old."
"That's a joke. It was used, not the beer you bought, in rituals. It wasn't until the 17th century that modern beer brewing was introduced to China."
"Good to know."
"You sound tired, too. You should sit, have one of the beers. I slept another 2 hours and had an hour's walk. I feel rested. I'll take care of the food."
"I just told them to load me up. I didn't know what you wanted, especially."
"I'm not fussy." She opened cartons. "I'm sorry you had a difficult day. You can tell me about it if you like."
Lawyers, arguments, accusations, threats. He opened a beer, sat at her counter. Paperwork, meetings. You don't have to put all that in bowls. The beauty of Chinese is you can eat right out of the carton.
Which is rushed and less soothing. She believed he required soothing. I can fix your plate if you tell me what you'd like.
Whatever, I'm not fussy either.
We should take a walk after dinner. Then you should try a warm bath and try to sleep. You seem very tense, and you rarely are.
I guess I'm just annoyed at having lawyers in my face who try to push and intimidate me and my deputies.
Yes, he's a very annoying man. She scooped rice out of the bowl, ladled sweet and sour pork over it, added a dumpling, some noodles, some butterfly shrimp. I had to walk off my own mood after he left this afternoon.
Left? Here? Blake came here?
This afternoon, with his assistant, ostensibly to apologize for his son's inadvertent trespassing, but that was just a ruse, not well disguised. He was displeased when I wouldn't let him come in to discuss the situation.
I bet he was. He doesn't like being refused. It's good you didn't open the door.
I did open the door, but wouldn't invite him in. She decided she'd try the beer straight out of the bottle, as Brooks did. Are you aware his assistant carries a gun?
Yeah, are you telling me he pulled a weapon on you?
Oh, no, don't be upset. She'd meant to soothe and had accomplished the opposite. Of course he didn't. I just noticed the line of his suit and then his body language when Bert growled. Brooks took a long pull of beer.
Why don't you tell me what was said and done?
You're upset, she murmured. I shouldn't have mentioned it.
Yes, you should have.
It wasn't anything important, really. He said he'd come to apologize, then was clearly put out when I refused to invite them in. He termed what happened a misunderstanding and indicated it was of your doing. I disabused him of that, as I was a witness. He implied I didn't understand his position in the community and that my relationship with you made my standing as witness suspicious. Not in those words, but that was the meaning. Do you want me to relay the exact conversation?
Not just yet. The gist is fine.
The gist. All right. He was displeased and angry as I told him to leave, and warned him and his assistant that if the assistant drew his weapon on Bert, I would release Bert, who would disarm the assistant handily, and reminded them I was also armed.
Jesus Christ.
I was, clearly. It seemed best to point out the obvious. Mr. Blake reiterated he'd come to apologize, and added he'd come to offer compensation, in the amount of $10,000, if I accepted it and agreed that what had happened was a misunderstanding. It annoyed me.
How many times did you ask them to leave?
3. I didn't bother to ask again, simply said goodbye and closed the door. He did bang on the door for nearly 2 minutes after that. He's very rude. Then his assistant convinced him to get back in the car. Brooks pushed back from the counter, paced the kitchen.
Why didn't you call me?
There wasn't any need. It was relatively simple to deal with. Irritating, but simple. She broke off, because when he turned to her, the controlled rage on his face snapped her throat closed.
Listen to me. 2 men you don't know come to your door. One of them's armed. They refuse to leave when you tell them to multiple times. What's the logical thing to do?
Close the door. I did.
No, Abigail. The logical thing to do is close the door, then call the police.
I don't agree. I'm sorry if that makes you angry, but I don't. They left. She decided to avoid more anger by not mentioning she'd intended to go back out, weapon drawn, at the 2-minute mark. Later, she'd wonder if the avoidance equaled one of those interpersonal relationship tangles. I was armed, Brooks, and Bert was on alert. I wasn't in any danger. In fact, Blake became so agitated I would have called both you and medical assistance if he hadn't left when he did.
Do you want to press charges?
No. You're angry with me. I don't want you to be angry with me. I did exactly as I felt best at that time under those circumstances. If your ego's threatened because I didn't call for help,
maybe some. Yeah, I'll own that. And I'm not going to say it's not a relief to me knowing I'm with a woman who can handle herself. But I know Blake. He tried to bully and intimidate you.
Yes, he tried. He failed.
Trying's enough. And he attempted to bribe you.
I told him his attempt to bribe a witness in a criminal matter was illegal.
I bet you did.
Brooks shoved a hand through his hair, sat again.
You don't know him. You don't know the kind of enemy you made today, and believe me, you made one.
I think I do know, she said quietly. I think I know very well. But making him an enemy isn't my fault, or yours.
Maybe not, but it's what it is.
You're going to confront him over it.
You're damn right I am.
Won't that just increase the level of animosity?
Maybe, but if I don't deal with it, he'll see it as a weak spot. He could come back, try again, figuring you didn't mention it, or just angling for a bigger payoff.
I made my position very clear.
If you understand the kind of person you're dealing with, you'll realize that it doesn't matter a damn.
12 years of running, she thought. Yes, she understood. You're right, but it mattered to me on a very personal level that I made my position clear.
Okay, that's done. Now I'm telling you, if he comes back, don't open the door to him. Call me.
Subjugate my ego to yours.
No. Maybe. Shit, I don't know about that part and don't much care.
She smiled a little. That would be another discussion. The way he took a breath told her he was trying to cool his temper.
I'm telling you, because he'll only be more intimidating and bullying if he comes back. I'm telling you because I want him to understand action will be taken if he tries to harass you or anyone else. I asked the same of Russ, his wife, his parents, told my deputies to tell their families.
She nodded, felt less annoyed. I see.
He's in a rage, Abigail. His money and his position, as he sees it, aren't making this one go away. His son's behind bars, and very likely to be behind them for a very long time.
He loves his son.
I don't know about that either, honest to God. But I know his ego's bound up in it. Nobody's going to put his boy in jail. Nobody's going to sully the Blake name. He's going to put everything he's got into fighting this. And if that means pushing at you, he'll push.
I'm not afraid of him. It also matters to me I'm not afraid of him.
I can see that. I don't want you to be afraid, but I want you to call me if he comes here again, if he tries to talk to you on the street, if he or anybody associated with him contacts you in any way. You're a witness, and you're damn well under my protection.
Don't say that. Her heart literally skipped. I don't want to be under anyone's protection.
It is what it is.
No! 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 Now panic spurted, fast and hot. I'll contact you if he comes here again, because it's unethical for him to try to influence me to lie, and it's illegal for him to bribe me to lie, but I don't want or need protection.
Calm down now.
I'm responsible for myself. I can't be with you if you don't understand and agree. I'm responsible for myself.
She'd taken several steps back, and the dog had ranged himself in front of her. Abigail, you are, as far as I can tell, capable of handling most anything that comes at you. But I'm duty-bound to protect everybody within my jurisdiction. That includes you. And I don't like you using my feeling for you as a weapon to get your own way.
I'm not doing that.
You damn well are.
I'm not...
She broke off, searched for calm, for sense.
It's not what I meant to do. I apologize.
Screw apologize. Don't ever use what I feel as a hammer.
You're so angry with me. I didn't mean to use your feelings. I didn't. I'm clumsy in this kind of situation. I've never been in this kind of situation. I don't know what to do, what to say, or how to say it. I just don't want you to feel particular responsibility for me. I don't know how to explain how uneasy it would make me if you did.
Why don't you try?
You're angry and tired, and your dinner's gone cold.
It appalled her to feel tears running down her cheeks.
I never meant for any of this to happen. I never thought you'd be so upset about Blake. I'm not doing the right thing, but I don't know what is. I don't mean to cry. I know tears are another weapon, and I don't mean them as one.
I know you don't.
I'll warm up the food.
It's fine. He rose, got a fork from the drawer, then sat again. Fine, he repeated, after he'd scooped some up, sampled.
You should use the chopsticks.
Never got the hang of them.
I could teach you.
I'll take you up on that some other time. Sit down and eat.
You're still angry. You're pushing it down because I cried. So the tears are a weapon.
Yeah, I'm angry and pushing it down some because you're crying and obviously torn up about things you won't tell me or feel you can't. I'm pushing it down some because I'm in love with you.